Hello everyone, Burb here. Today I'd like to talk about Seiun Sky Ballroom. The Ballroom banner is being released tomorrow. It is a double banner. I've already done Fuji Kaseki Ballroom for the people who enjoy Fuji Kaseki. That is in a separate video. Today we are specifically talking about Seiun Sky, her Ballroom skin, and everything that I have compiled about this character. That is what the Way Too In-Depth Guide 2 series is all about. So without further ado, let's begin. The banner review portion for the Oshi players that need some more validation. You do not need validation from me. This is a character that has meta front implications on specifically the long track. Everything else is a bonus at this point. You can use her as a parent. You can use her on her own. So that is the banner. Not much needs to be said there. Let's get into the character herself. Her affinities. She is specifically a turf track long front runner. That is what is intended. That is what she has over the other Seiun Sky. You can stretch her into different distances if you're an Oshi player and you don't have base Seiun Sky, but base Seiun Sky is a lot better than Ballroom Seiun Sky in those other distances besides long. Now, if this is the only Seiun Sky that you have, sure, play it for the Oshi reasons, but unfortunately not having angling and scheming makes it very difficult on the distances that are not named long, okay? So, turf track, long runner, front runner, you can technically stretch her to pace chaser and even late surger and end closer, but why would you except for fun reasons? And then of course you can go medium and Mile C helps a lot with the track laser scenario, but other than that, you're really focusing on the long. So that's really what the affinities are all about with this character. Her stat bonuses are a little bit weird with the guts bonus 14%, power bonus and speed bonus 8%. Mainly because it's just awkward numbers and 8% doesn't really give necessarily too much to change your deck around. So you'll be running standard speed, power, wit, whether you're free to play or you are a strong player. You can build her in the guts version. So you can guts max this character. The odd thing about this character is that she is built kind of for guts maxing because you have the 14% guts bonus and the speed and the power bonus at the time. So the guts button is so good. It's just in the long tracks, it's very difficult to get a guts build at this point. In the future, it sort of opens up a little bit, but you need stamina on long tracks, and the guts maxing build sacrifices both stamina and some wit for the fact that you get a lot of speed and a lot of power and a lot of guts. So in the future, guts maxing will be a very, very viable option, but right now in the current state of Pisces Cup, if you're trying to quick build her, it's a little bit difficult to fit in a guts build. So if you're building her mile and medium for some reason or another, speed, power, wit, usually the way to go on these mile medium tracks, you can guts max her in mile and medium, but really honestly her long track is where she excels in, and you can go, if you have strong cards, you can just go the speed, wit, and then either get a wit card or a power card in your free slot, and then usually you get super creek in these longs at the moment. You can't get Seiun Sky stamina for a secondary thing, but you don't really need it because you have Escape Artisan kit anyways. If you're on a free-to-play build or a low-spender build, you usually will borrow Super Creek for these long CMs, and then you usually want to pump your wit really, really high on these frontrunners. So wit cards, speed cards, all very good. Make sure you hit your stamina requirements and then try to get your speed and wit up as high as possible while just using your sparks, honestly, to get as much power as you can to hit the minimum threshold for power. Okay, so those are her bonuses. Her ultimate, and this is really where the bulk of the character is. So break it down. It's a breakdancing ultimate. If positioned towards the front on a straight late race, increase her velocity with high spirits. If the straight is on the backstretch, also increase acceleration very slightly. This sounds a lot like Kittison Black Alt because it's pretty close to the Kittison Black Alt. You need a phase 2, corner, order 2, straight front type is 2 is the bonus condition. We will go over each of these conditions. Phase 2 just means the late race. So anywhere in the late race, actually I think it's up to the final spurt, greater than or equal to, so up to the final spurt and throughout. So anywhere past the spurt, which is the double aquamarine arrow, it has the chance of procking. Now, however, it has to be on a straight, which means corner equals 0, which means it can proc on the initial straight or it can proc on the final straight. You have to be in second position or better. And if you have all three of these conditions at the same time, it will proc on the first timing in which it does so, which means, especially on these long tracks, if you have the spurt and you win the mid race, which means you are in first place as a front runner, it means that you will proc this on perfect timing. And that is the strength of this ultimate, is that you have acceleration component on an ultimate that is able to perfect proc. Okay, so you have to be in either second position or you have to be in first position. If you are either of those, it will proc. Now, the straight front type 2, which is the bonus condition that adds the acceleration component, means that this particular straight, which happens on every single long track, is a backstretch, which means it is away from the stand itself, it's away from the camera itself. So this particular backstretch, which is in the acceleration zone, will also have the acceleration component, and if you miss it and you somehow hit it in the late race, you still get the speed component, but you do not get the acceleration component, which is what this is right here. So it is a 1.75 distance unit ultimate, but it is in the acceleration zone when it's most effective, so you will not get the target speed increase as effectively. Putting it in comparison to Citizen Black, it is technically more speed than Citizen Black, but 0.1 less acceleration, okay? There is also, I believe, a rumor that it may start at 0.1 acceleration. I believe it's going to start at 0.2 acceleration because they released Mambo with her updated JP ult that was fixed pretty quickly in JP as well, because it wasn't that great as just a recovery itself. I think the same thing's going to happen here. I think they're going to release her with 0.2 acceleration base as well. Okay, so technically a little bit more speed versus a little bit more acceleration. This is more notable on the non-long tracks because in the acceleration zone, you're only getting about 2 to 2.4 seconds worth of actual target speed increase when you're hitting both of the ultimates at the same time, which is what you're going to be doing, is you're going to be putting one of these ultimates on the other character to make the perfect meta build. Okay, so you have about 2.4 seconds of useful target speed, which means your speed advantage is only about 0.24 distance units, so it's not the greatest in the world. As far as that, so these two ultimates are fairly interchangeable. Now, the Inherit is a 0.07 acceleration versus a 0.1, which is about 30% worse than Kiss and Black Ult, but then again, this is like the premier pairing for any frontrunner at the moment, so it's not like you're having to choose between one or the other. Unless you don't have both characters. In that case, you put one in the grandparent slot, and I would say probably put the Seiun Sky Ballroom in the grandparent slot if you don't own either of these characters. But the acceleration is the most important part. Citizen Black has more acceleration. However, I think you most likely will be getting both of these if you're a frontrunner player, because a lot of frontrunner players do like to be perfectly ideal. That is the draw to the role itself. So that is her ultimate. It is a very good ultimate that works on every single long track, that is inheritable in every single long track, and that is the strength of this character. Outside of Track Blazer, her career and events are a standard long career with, of course, the third place Tenno Spring and the third place Kikuko Show while winning the Arima Keenan. It's pretty standard. Again, you need stamina on this character. It is troublesome if you're building her for mile or sprint for some reason, because, yeah, you need to beat the Tenno Show. Third place or better in the Tenno Spring is a little bit tough. She has two weird events that if you participate in the Kyoto Daishoten or the Menaichi Okan, you get some story events, but they don't really do anything. The one that actually does stuff, again, disabled in Track Blazer. If you win the Triple Crown, which she does run, so if you just end up winning all three of these, you get some bonus hints towards fast pace, which is an innate skill, and a mood up. So it's a little bit nice, but not particularly groundbreaking. It's just, it's not like Taiki Shuttle where she gets a brand new head-on. Otherwise, her costume events are really interesting in that your choice on the first costume event to hit, which is before the ligne droite, holy moly, I'm American, before the ligne droite, if you choose the energy on the first one, you get only one hint for right-handed. And if you decide to take the wit instead of the energy, which I think will be better in a lot of situations unless you specifically have a tap you need, you instead get some bonus stamina and skill points and additional hints towards right-handed. So you have to figure out if the tap you're going to get is going to be worth more than 25 stats and essentially 60 skill points, assuming you are on a right-handed track and that right-handed is useful. So I think that a lot of times you'll actually be taking the bottom event on this train, because just the additional skill points and stamina will be useful on these long tracks. You also have Keep the Secret, which is a random costume event, I believe, as well. And I think you almost always take the top option unless you already have Fast Learner, because even though it's only about a 6% chance for these Fast Learner events, getting Fast Learner is such a large buff that, especially on these front runners taking a lot of skills, that it's very important, and it's worth more than just an additional 30 skill points essentially worth of a skill that you already have. Fast pace again is good, but you have it in the kit. For her costume, this is actually her character events, I'm pretty sure. You do get Subdued Late Surger on a bottom proc, as well as the Sunny Day Standoff that I think a lot of people have sort of formed their own opinions on which one's the rest ready to take. If you're gambling, the middle one gives you some energy and deep breaths, which is a good recovery. You can gamble the top of speed, but I think you're generally in the mid or the bottom in a lot of these because getting the fail chance, I don't know exactly the fail chance for each of these, but it is quite risky going top or middle. But if you have contingencies against it, you can do it. This, I believe, is enabled. Both of these, I believe, are enabled in Trackblazer, so you will see these events. Of course, you have the fishing event, which I think is disabled in Trackblazer. But based on your highest stat, you can get your choice of these skills, but most times you are going to get either front runner straightaways or hesitant late surges because your speed and weight usually are the highest stat that you get towards the end of the career anyways. Her innate skill, we talked about her event skills. She comes with Spring Runner, which is good in spring, obviously. She comes with Rosy Outlook, which is a little awkward because it's a medium skill, and this is really a long horse. And then Early Lead, which is just a good white skill for front runners as part of the, I guess, groundwork package. Am I going to... Yes, this is taking the lead white, right? This is taking the lead white? Yes, this is taking the lead white. I'm getting it right this time. Sorry, I messed it up last time. Her golds are very, very, very good. Escape Artist is fast-paced gold. I think regular Saiyan Sky also has this. This is a mid-race speed skill for front runners. We'll start with this one. So all it is just a random point in the mid-race. You get 0.35 gold speed. And mid-race is everything for these front runners because you need to win in order to get your acceleration, especially on these longs. In addition, on these long tracks, these mid-race speed skills are stretched so much that their value is just so high. So Escape Artist in kit is just incredible because this is quite a hard skill to actually get on characters that don't have it. Top Runner as well, I believe, is her new addition to the game, which is Gold Leader's Pride. Now, this is a little bit more weird. There's two situations where this can occur. This can happen anytime in the mid-race, and either if you pass somebody, or if you are passed, or if you are in a challenge, which means block side continue time, which is a finicky situation. Like, it's the ticket ultimate, like ticket ultimate just sometimes just doesn't proc. But the length of the long races means usually one of these will happen, and this will cause you to go and retake your position. So Top Runner is very good mid-race. Gold mid-race skill, 0.35, 3 second. Escape Artist, gold mid-race skill, 0.35, 3 seconds. She has ridiculous mid-race that is honestly, I think, rivaling Summer Marzensky because you essentially have two gold skills that are mid-race, and Summer Marzensky has one plus her ultimate. Pretty darn good. Her CM viability, here's the deal. Long track, she's very good. The rest of them we're going to have trouble on, and we'll talk about it. In the Pisces Cup, if you do decide, and I don't suggest this, to go and remake your front runners or make a Saiyan Sky Ballroom, it does work. You will proc on the accel zone on perfect timing if you're in second or first, and her mid-race speed skill means that you can fight these Kidison Blacks as well. You would put Kidison Black on her, and she would be a very, very viable front runner, okay? Then we get into the mediums, and here's the problem. The late race starts on a corner, which means that you will not be able to proc until the final straight. This is not in the accel zone, and it's also not in a backstretch, which means that the backstretch is always on the side away from the camera itself, the side away from the bottom of it on Game Torah, which means this is just a speed skill. It's a good late race speed skill, but it's just not the acceleration that you are looking for. The other problem is that on these medium tracks, they are corner tracks, and angling and scheming is like the number one front runner skill to have because you need your acceleration to fight with things like Christmas Oguri, which means that you're going to have to somehow get angling and scheming on her on a grandparent with very low affinity, which I've seen it happen, but I believe it can happen physically. It's not going to happen, right? Like it's tough. You have to run a lot of runs at the very least, and at the most, if it's coded in the game to not happen, it won't happen on these medium tracks. So you're without the number one front runner acceleration when you're playing this version of the character. The same thing happens on Taurus Cup. It's a corner track. It's a medium. All medium tracks are like this. Corner track on the medium, all you have is the late race speed skill. You don't have angling and scheming. You also don't have the stronger version of angling and scheming, which is where regular Saiyan Sky really excels. On the mile tracks, you have the opposite problem in that, hey, they proc at the right time, but the problem is that this is the front stretch, not the back stretch, so it still doesn't proc acceleration, which means that angling and scheming does proc it, and this character doesn't proc it. This is why she's a long specialist. And the sprints, it's the same way, although you do get some, and it's still eaten by the accel zone on both of these a bit, because it is procking very close to the spurt itself. You're only getting speed and you're not getting her acceleration. I'm trying to drive this point home that she is a long track runner, like through and through. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but it's important. We go all the way till CM20 before we have our next long CM. This is the Sagittarius reboot, October. So you are waiting until October after this Pisces Cup, in the middle of Grand Live, until we're on another long track in which that her ultimate will be incredible. Like, her ultimate plus Citizen Black ultimate is, I believe, still the front runner meta at this point, and because this actually has quite a long stretch as well, honestly, it's probably pretty good at this point. But this is very far in the future. The long CMs are few and far between. There's usually about 2 to 3 of them per year. But she is very, very good for frontrunners in these long CMs. And that is the trade-off you have to make, is, are you pulling for a character that is good for the few CMs that she is viable on, versus having the regular version, right? And the regular version is good on the mediums. She's good on the miles. She's decent on some of the sprints. It just all depends on the track and the timing. This fills out the slots in which regular Saiyan Sky is not good at. So this is a situation where having both is probably pretty good if you are a frontrunner player, okay? Let's talk about her affinities, because she is mostly used as a parent and then occasionally herself. This goes for regular Saiyan Sky too, if you're interested, but her number one and why she's going to be paired a lot with it is Citizen Black. And of course, you do have a couple other good characters like Special Week, but not necessarily a front runner unless you build her for it. And then Mayano Top Gun is a front runner, and you can build her in the front runner position. You have a bunch of characters where she is, this is global by the way, in the mid 20s for, which is usually still pretty good. The notable ones in my opinion are Mahono Bourbon, especially the Valentine skin, and Measure McQueen if you decide to move her towards the front runner, or a Lucky Pace Chaser. You can run any of the pace chasers on this list. The problem things is, like, El Frontor Pasa on longs doesn't normally work because this is a straight and Frontor Pasa is a corner. A lot of these are like end closers and late surgers, but you do have a couple of options, and usually the front runner options are all pretty good affinity with Saiyan Sky, save for Marazensky, who doesn't have good affinity with many people at all. So in conclusion, this character doesn't need much introduction, honestly. She is a good frontrunner long specialist, and as we get further in the game in which we are pulling for horses that are for specific tracks with their parents, she remains at least an option, if not the best option, for those particular tracks alongside Citizen Black Ultimate. So those two will be the forefront of the frontrunner meta for the foreseeable future. She has that value. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this guide for Saiyan Sky Ballroom. I know I'm not a frontrunner player, so I may have gotten things wrong, so please do corrections in the comments. I know I was a little long-winded, and I hope you enjoyed me breaking down this character. I know it was pretty quick and fast-paced, but she is really a top runner. All right, that was kind of weak, I understand, but I got to leave before the Rudolph start coming, so burb out.